of the great tradition of the Super Cheap Auto Bathurst 1000. The transporters rolling into town on Wednesday and making their way up to the mountain. This is the nerve centre of our coverage, and the Fujitsu Development Series is not only the breeding ground for the next generation of V8 supercar stars, it is also this weekend the chance to show your stuff on the biggest stage there is. There are 6 drivers doubling up with duties in the main game as well. They have 2 14-lap races, and the first one is about to get underway. So let's join our commentators for this one. From the Holden Racing team for this weekend, Cam McConville is alongside our support category commentator, Aaron Noonan.
Oh, Matt, great to get things started at Mount Panorama. This is round 5 of the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. And in terms of qualifying, it was held very early this morning, and the Armor All Pole Award for the first time this year, it's not Steve Owen. David Russell takes his second career pole in the Team Jayco Falcon from Matthew White and Cam. 2 minutes 7.8, a great time.
That is an absolute awesome time. Well done, David Waugh. I mean, he's a star of the future. He's 28 years of age, his second career pole, and massive commitment around this track to even do a 2 minute 7. Apparently he was on track for a mid-7. Very impressive.
Let's have a look at the track. We know it so well. That's the map. It's 23 turns in total. Across the top of the mountain, that's the one that will get the attention of a lot of drivers, because a third of the field have never raced a V8 supercar here.
That's right, Noons. 8 drivers, their first time at the mountain. Now, Nick Percat has raced here in an Aussie racer, but not in a V8 supercar. Huge commitment across the top. The car feels quite ugly. It rolls around. So for guys that have driven here in, say, Formula Ford, it's just a completely different animal. It's like learning how to drive again.
We'll be on board with Rodney Jane behind the wheel of the Bob Jane Team Arts Falcon, the car that won the great race with Lowndes and Whincup, in fact, in 2008. Rodney will start 7th on the grid for this one. 14 laps. Let's have a look at the way they line up. Russell on pole, Steve Owen alongside him. Of course, he leads the championship by 204 points. A very, very handy margin. Just behind, though, I reckon the wild card here, Paul Morris.
Yeah, who knows what the dude's going to throw up for those drivers in turn 1. Ben Barker there, position 10. A good effort for him, Formula 3 leader at the moment. Ben Eggleston driving the car I drove at Winton, one of the Walkinshaw cars, and Paul Fiore there in P16.
Aaron McGill lining up on row 9 with youngster Aaron Russell, who's one of those first-timers. Adam Wallace returns to the series. Marcus Zakanovic starting down the back. They had some problems in qualifying. They burnt out the fuel pumps in that car. And Phil Foster's team, they've repaired that car after some pretty nasty damage from yesterday's practice session. They missed qualifying. They will start down the back. So 150 championship points on the line for this race. We do it again tomorrow. Steve Owen is the man that they're really all chasing, but I've got to say I was surprised he was knocked off a pole.
Yeah, because Steve Owen is just so quick around here. There's no doubt about that. Everyone knows that. He wants to get back into the main game, you would assume, for 2011. He's doing everything right. Nick Percat there on screen, number 222 in the Bundy red car. And this car ran at the Townsville round in the hands of David Reynolds.
Well, a couple of drivers I think we should keep our eyes on in this race. Scott McLaughlin, the 17-year-old, the youngest V8 driver here this weekend, and he mentioned it's a white knuckle ride up the top of the mountain. Also, Chaz Mostert starting from position 11, his first ever V8 supercar start, and he's been getting some advice from Glenn Seaton along the weekend. And I love it, the Gen Ys, they don't look at data or data sheets. It's all about watching YouTube and doing it on PlayStation to learn their way around the mountain.
Thanks, Bridie. Brian Easton will be in pit lane for all of the support races this weekend. We'll be on board the Fujitsu Falcon with Scott McLaughlin. What an opportunity, 17 years of age, to race a V8 at Mount Panorama. It's Fujitsu Friday on 7. We're going to get things started. David Russell, Steve Owen, front row of the grid. 22 Fujitsu V8 supercars are set to launch in race 1. They've held them on the limiter. Now they get running. The pole man's made a great jump. Paul Morris is down the inside as well. Moffat 4th. Nick Percat sneaks through into 5th. But Steve Owen from the front row of the grid has dropped back to 3rd. The long climb up Mountain Straight, and Scott McLaughlin, welcome to Bathurst. Here's some grass.
Yeah, on the outside of turn 1, he got squeezed off the road over that curve. He's resumed just in front of Ben Eggleston. Look at the start by Russell. He absolutely launched off the line, and if there's a bit of a weakness for Steve Owen, it starts. He hasn't been particularly good off the line in this championship this season.
Here's the climb, the first of 14 times up the mountain. Cold tyres, cold brains in some instances. Get the rhythm, get the flow. David Russell, he'll be with Jonathan Webb in the Mother Falcon on Sunday. No surprises that the top 4 drivers so far in this race will be in the big race on Sunday. There's Tim Blanchard, first time at Bathurst for the young Victorian on board the Sirame Falcon from the Sonic team, and Nick Percat moving into the VE Commodore this weekend, being run by Walkinshaw Racing. But first lap of any race across the top, this gets your attention.
Oh, it does, Nerds, at this particular circuit. But I tell you, a sign of a talented driver is to go quick on the first lap. Cold tyre, find the limit, put your head down and go. And that's exactly what David Russell has done. He's known that Steve Owen's got a bad start. Paul Morris can hopefully hold up Steve Owen. And this race, he could really put it in the bag early if he could just get a 2 or 3 second gap on Paul Morris.
We rode with Tim Blanchard there for a second. Of course, he made his main game debut with Greg Murphy. Did a great job at the LNH 500 at Phillip Island. We look back at the Norton 360 Falcon. James Moffat not really happy with this car from Ford Performance Racing this weekend. They just haven't quite been able to get it to turn. It's been understeering quite a bit. He just needs to hang with the big boys, but Morris has started to eat into that margin.
Yeah, a little bit under brakes, but just the roar down Conrod Straight, just hearing the cars go through the kick at the chase. They're probably just rolling off the throttle at 294 kilometres an hour, really quick into the chase.
Moffat will be with Steve Richards in the Dunlop Super Dealer car on Sunday. The end of lap 1, Russell by half a second. Great shot. This long climb back up the mountain, and of course, you don't get turn 1 right, it affects you all the way up Mountain Straight.
It does, because with this diff ratio in the cars here at Bathurst, the car labours a little bit in second gear on the way out, so the RPM's down. You've got to really keep the car flowing through turn 1, but get good drive traction off the turn. And it's interesting you're talking about James Moffat there a little bit early. Came on with such a bang into the championship, but has struggled a little bit with this car this season. He has some assistance from FPR. Whoa, sideways over the exit curve. Another corner where the car is quite unsettled, mid-corner there, third gear. But Moff just struggling a little bit this weekend too, so he needs to try and get back up on that podium.
That car that was a little bit sideways was Drew Russell in the ESET antivirus car, 2-car team from Newcastle. His younger brother Aaron making his first start here at Mount Panorama. We ride with Rodney Jane. We're looking back at Drew Russell in the fight for 7th and 8th place. And this is a great job from this little team from Newcastle. A couple of ex-Brad Jones Racing Falcons. They got their first test day in mid-September and starting to see some real benefits as they tumble off the top of the mountain just behind Ryan Hansford, the son of the late 1993 Bathurst winner Greg Hansford. And Chaz Mostert is running 10th, first ever time in a V8 supercar.
That's very impressive, actually. He's the hot... Whoa, bit of a touch there from behind. Hansford just locks the fronts down into Forest Elbow, so that's given Rodney Jane a bit of a gap, and he's done damage to the front of that car.
The grill piece flies out on Conrod, so that will be okay. But Mostert tucking in for the slipstream. Jeff Emery's behind, and Scott McLaughlin. Hansford's going to cover this run to the chase. Scarier from there than inside?
Yeah, it is actually, although it is pretty hairy from the inside there, particularly with a full tank of fuel, and 14 laps around here, they'll have at least 80 litres of fuel on board for the start of this race. So, but Mostert, as we're talking about there, and I think this is impressive to jump out of a Formula 40. He is the hot shot in the championship. Let's have a look at the start here. Morris got a good start as well. Rodney Jane a little bit slow, a bit of wheel spin off the line there for him. But everyone got through turn 1 neatly, except for McLaughlin, who did drop 2 wheels off onto the dirt and lost a heap of places.
David Russell, the pole man, is in front, just set the fastest lap of the race at 2:10.49. The margin just over a second, but the Falcon leads the way. It's the start of a big weekend at Mount Panorama. Big drama at Bathurst. Drew Russell, the ESET Falcon, is up and over at King G Corner, Griffin's Bend. Just got a small touch while we were away. The car went backwards into the tyre wall, and poor Drew is stuck. He can't go anywhere. He's stuck on his side. He's fine. Safety car has been called, and there was quite a dice going on for 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. There are a gaggle of cars making their way up Mountain Straight, and that's the end result. The car hasn't fully rolled over Cam McConville, but it's stuck on his side, and that's just got to be more uncomfortable. Here we go. He just gets a touch. Ryan Hansford puts his nose in, nowhere near the gap.
I think that's a big impact with the wall, so the damage will be done in the rear quarter with that hit. So he's had a look up the inside. He's not far enough up and locked a brake, and he was out of control himself, really. That pass, he wasn't far enough in, I don't think, to make that pass without any contact, and just a little bit. You could see, on the other hand, there's always two stories, two views here, and Russell did turn in a little bit, but avoidable contact.
You've got to look at it two ways too in terms of the wall. Obviously, it's a tyre wall there, so that's what's bounced the car up and over. If he'd gone in there to just a concrete wall, that's a lot more rear-end damage. So either way, there's some work to do for Wayne Russell and the Novocastrian Adrenaline team. But what can Drew do? He's just got to sit there and wait.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, for someone that has been over a couple of times on their lid, you don't want to undo the seatbelts.
Down here with Wayne Russell. Wayne, you've looked at that replay a couple of times. What's your take on it?
Well, it looks like he got a tap up the backside, and that sent the car sideways straight to the tyre wall. He's getting out of the car, so he's okay, thank goodness. But he'll be absolutely shattered. He was having a good run. The car was going okay. Unfortunately, I mean, what do you do? Sometimes these things happen in motor racing, but we're just a really small budget team, and we just can't afford these sort of accidents. So, but he's okay, and that's the main thing.
That's the main thing. Such a shame. Thanks, Wayne.
Thank you very much.
And Wayne's a man who knows about racing at Mount Panorama, was a privateer runner in the 90s in V8 supercar racing. He's got two very talented young sons, but I'm not sure that this is how they thought race one would go. Safety car is out at Mount Panorama. David Russell leads the way. It's race one in the Fujitsu series. Still behind the Pettis safety car here at Bathurst with race one in the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. David Russell is your leader from Paul Morris, Steve Owen and James Moffat. We're on lap 5 of a scheduled 14 in this one. Drew Russell out of the race. The ESAT Falcon ended up on its lid. This happened earlier on down at Falcon Elbow. Ryan Hansford, just a little bit of a touch on the back of the ESAT car, and then this, top of Mountain Straight, just up the inside, a small touch, and then this, up and over the tyre wall.
Well, I think it was 60-40, to be honest, Nerns. I mean, there really wasn't a big enough gap, and he's locked the brake to try and get out of it, because Russell did turn in quite aggressively to the apex, but there wasn't enough overlap, really. He should have got out of it a bit earlier, and that mistake earlier too, where he locked up and gave him a tap, so I'm sure they'll have a look at that one after the race.
So we get to restart this race. The yellow flags will be withdrawn. The safety car will head back to the lane, and that little margin, that nice margin that David Russell worked for in the Jayco Falcon. He started from pole. It's all gone now, and he's got the Love Commodore behind him. Paul Morris behind the wheel.
And there won't be any love there.
Might be on the rear bumper, but he's got a great restart. Really hooks it up off the final turn. Buys himself some breathing space in a turn one. Really impressed by Nick Percat and Tim Blanchard. First timers here at Bathurst in V8 supercars. They've done Aussie racing cars, but it doesn't really add up. They are running with guys like Morris and Owen, who've done more than 10 Bathurst 1000s each.
Speaking of Stephen Owen, the headlights are on. He wants to get past, and he's gone down there. I don't think he's going to be quite. He's very deep under brakes and pulls it off. That'll slow Paul Morris's run on the exit of turn 2, and Moffat will close up right behind him.
So the R&J Batteries Commodore from Greg Murphy Racing, of course, they're running a car in the main race as a wildcard entry on Sunday. But Owen is the championship leader. He won the series in 2008, but didn't win the Bathurst round. So he's really keen to get the win. They've made this car as close as they can to the Team Vodafone #1 car in terms of the brakes and the pedal box and everything, just so he's comfortable. Great shot across the top. On board, Norton 360 camera. James Moffat, 4th place. But Russell, he is hooked.
It's an interesting point you made about Stephen Owen, because yes, he is getting more miles, but he's jumping out of a car that's got a different steering rack, different brake master cylinders, but has a different feel about it. When he gets in the AAA car, it just confuses you a little bit. So it's clever by Greg Murphy Racing, obviously have a connection to AAA through Murph to try and make the car as similar as possible. But great effort by David Russell. He bunched everyone up and got that slingshot at that restart, and he's gone again on cold tyres.
Back with the 17-year-old Scott McLaughlin, running 11th in the Fujitsu Ford, which is run by Stone Brothers Racing. And Scotty's a young apprentice in the workshop at SPR, learning the trade of V8 supercars. Here's Jeff Emery, 9th in the NDD Commodore. There he is, the blue, white and yellow car. He's making his Bathurst 1000 debut on Sunday in a wildcard entry from Greg Murphy's team, but the two young former Formula 4 champs, Percat and Blanchard, they're second and third in the championship. Not much has separated them all year, and they've been the main men to take it up to Steve Owen.
Yeah, they have, and they're now got a little bit of a battle going on between them. So we'll watch this one with interest. Blanchard came of age at the Townsville round, really put a solid effort in there, kept his nose clean. But Stephen Owen, a 2:09.9 on that last lap. He's on a charge.
Closing in on our leader, Russell. There's Morris, who's driving in 3 categories this weekend. The main 1000, the Fujitsu Series and the V8 Utes. Back on board with Blanchard. New backing this weekend from Toledo Tools. Gotta love this climb at turn 2.
Now, we've just seen Hansford drive through the pit lane, so I wonder, we'll have to just check if there has been a drive-through penalty. Word coming through that there was a drive-through penalty handed out to Hansford, and he's just served that right now.
He rejoins last. There he is, 21st place in the V8 race Falcon. Back up front though, Russell has gone fastest to the first sector, so he's responded to Steve Owen's challenge in the Commodore. There's Morris, 3rd spot. Oh, McLaughlin, he's off the road. That is at Reed Park.
And he's hit the wall hard, I reckon, Aaron, there. Yeah, big
no steering.
Hit. Poor young guy. We're just saying what a great job he's doing. I mean, this is huge effort to hang on to one of these cars when you're so young without having ever been here before, and unfortunately it looks like he may have got it wrong.
So the safety car makes its 2nd appearance, and the youngest ever V8 supercar driver at Bathurst has been bitten by the mountain. But David Russell had just responded there to that first challenge from Steve Owen. It was shaping up to be a great race. We're on lap 7 of 14, so halfway through this first race of the weekend. It's Russell from Owen, Morris, Moffat, then Percat and Blanchard, Rodney Jane, Jeff Emery, Mostert and Ben Eggleston now in the top 10. We just picked that up quite late. He was already in the fence. Let's have a look again. Now this will tell the story. The climb up through Solomon, and it looked a little strange. Clipped the wall on the inside and then fired into the outside, but something didn't seem right the way that it launched.
Well, he hit the outside, as we call the tree. The tree's not there now, it's been cut down, but it looks like he just sort of ran wide and just glanced that outside wall, and then he's bounced off, so it kind of whips the steering out of your hand, and probably a bigger hit with the right side wall. So perhaps just got up on the curb on the exit of the tree, and now he's got no steering. He's obviously got a flat tyre as well and a fair bit of damage, so a real shame for Scott McLaughlin, who's been doing an outstanding job this season, first full season in V8 Supercars.
And he was so proud of himself at testing. He did some great starts, and that's been his real weakness this year, but they've got a car to fix before tomorrow's 2nd race of the weekend. Lap 8 at Bathurst, David Russell is the man who leads the way. Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series under safety car for the 2nd time. This is why young Scott McLaughlin, well, appropriately in the Fujitsu car, he got the Fujitsu fence.
Yeah, that's right, good bit of PR there, if there is any positive, but he's only 17 years of age, so it is a big ask, and that shows you the speed the cars are travelling. You're in 3rd gear, and you pull 4th gear just after that. He's already lost it. That will have done more damage to this car than the initial glance with the wall. It could even be a front chassis rail kinked there. And we're now on full safety car, so may not be his last off at Bathurst.
2nd time that we've restarted. The first time, David Russell got a brilliant jump and managed to get a margin. Steve Owen's chasing. Morris is covering because he was slow. James Moffat's in there. Nick Percat's in there. Tim Blanchard. And Morris he's done a couple of rounds in Fujitsu this year, and he said, hey, if the young boys can get up and race with me, if they can beat me, good luck to them, but otherwise, I'm not giving them an inch.
No, and it's unlike Paul to say something like that too. But, I think it's great to see him in there. This championship, it's not really the development series anymore. I mean, you've got co-drivers doing some holes like Steve Owen, even myself at Winton, and you've got the future talent, the future co-drivers to be with the big teams in this race.
You've got first-hand account this year. You won the Winton round, so 1 Fujitsu start, 1 win, 100%.
That's
good
right.
job.
I quit while I was ahead.
But you've been able to go hand-to-hand with these guys first-hand. So you've got a really good read on the young guys who potentially a lot of these others have got raced against, and of course the Morrises, the Owens, the guys that you've raced against.
Oh, look, the top 6 pace qualifying showed that in the 7s. You know, there's some very good talent coming through this category, as there always has been, but with the more rounds, there's talk about more rounds next year, perhaps 8 rounds, and this is where, you know, the big teams are going to be looking for the Enduro co-drivers. If they continue to have this split driver rule, this is where definitely the future is all about.
Russell is flying. He's done the first sector this lap on the restart faster than any other for the race so far. Rodney Jones was all out of control in the run towards the elbow there, but Russell has skipped away. He's running, of course, the BF model Falcon. That's the car that Jonathan Webb won this championship in last year. Compared to the FG in the main series, it's a little bit narrow. It slips through the air a little bit better, and of course the VE Commodore a little bit wider, a little bit slower down the straight.
That's right, and it's a bit like the VZ Commodore is to the VE. The VE has a wider frontal area, so you're pushing a bigger area through the wind down the straight. So the VZ is actually slipperier than the current model VE, but that was a very, very good illustration there on board with Blanchard of the toe down Conrod. You could hear actually got into the rev limiter before the chase there, so he's starting to put some pressure on the Bundy car of Nick Percat.
Really impressed with these young guys. Blanchard, as you mentioned, won the last round at Townsville. Did it from qualifying 12th. Quite amazing. This is a Sonic motor racing car, an ex-Team Vodafone Craig Lowndes chassis. Former British Formula Ford runner-up, Australian Formula Ford champion. Very good pedigree and sat out last year, in fact, of motorsport, but has come back really strongly this year. And Nick Percat, the reigning Australian Formula 4 champ, has been running an older model car so far this year for the J Motorsport team. A bit of a change since Townsville, and has updated to this car, which was run earlier on in the year by Fabian Coulthard in the Champ Series, David Reynolds at Townsville, and has really adapted. I mean, first time in the mountain and qualified at 2 minute 8.7. That's impressive.
Yeah, really good. And Garth Tander has taken Nick Percat under his wing a little bit over the last 12 or 18 months, and that's certainly showing. He's a mature guy. I've worked with him a little bit, and of course, don't forget he drove in the Phillip Island 500. Both these guys, Nick Percat partnered Andrew Thompson, and of course Tim Blanchard in with Greg Murphy, so they've had a lot of miles of late.
Dropping off the top. Just love watching any form of race car across this part of the circuit. The 4X Gold Dipper. That's a great shot to illustrate just how narrow it is down here.
Down into the limiter in third, brake back to second, easy to snag that inside front tyre. We've already seen that so far, and a good run on to Conrod straight by Blanchard. He was slow in, fast out. Let's see if he can get the toe. Perhaps a little bit too far back, but by the time he hits the chase, he should be right up under that bumper.
Over the last hump, down towards the L&H chase. Flat chat. This is where the rookies really get the eyes opening. Percat covers the line, but you've got to be careful with that because, oh no, Blanchard didn't get it right, went in too deep and lost all that time and space.
I think he may have just locked up the inside tyre there and ran a little bit wide. So Percat's got away from Blanchard by a couple of car lengths there. A 2:09.67 for David Russell. A fantastic lap by him. So I think these couple of safety cars has just enabled the tyres to cool down. And he's now 1.3 seconds ahead of Steve Owen.
And this fight is on. Rodney Jane is 7th. Chaz Mostert is 8th. Of course, this is the East Coast traffic car that we've seen Wayne Miles run in. He stepped out of that car. He put the young Formula Ford Series leader. He's not the series champion. He hasn't finished with Formula Ford this year. They'll next be in action on the Gold Coast. But this is a good solid car. X888 chassis. And around the outside. Oh, Blanchard in the fence at turn 2.
He's hit the turn now. They're all going to come up on him. He's just limping, and he's actually got damage on the rear as well. So I'd say he's lost the back of that car, and that's heavy contact.
And I'd say steering damage as well, and he is limping his way around.
Whether he was trying to make a move on Nick Percat, we'll have to have a look at the replay. He was a fair way back as they crossed the start-finish line.
Stephen Richards and Luke Jordan watching on. Luke knows all about Fujitsu Series Racing, won the round here a couple of years ago. The planter, here we go. Here's the replay. Lost the rear and snagged the front as it swung back around. And it's dislodged the rear wing.
That'll be a fair bit of damage. There'd be Watts linkage, perhaps even the diff housing. Let's see, just lost the rear. Whoa, it went Let's have a look. Yeah, fortunately there is tyre bundle there to lessen the blow, but that was really weird. It was very late into the corner when he lost the rear, so unfortunate for the young guy. There's the speed trap, the HSV speed trap, 291 down Conrod this time.
This race has been shortened because of the safety car period, so it will be a 12 lap up, and David Russell, so impressive. And how much of a confidence builder is this for Sunday, where he teams up with Jonathan Webb, who he raced against last year in the Fujitsu Series. They had such a solid run at Phillip Island. They were 6th in the 500. This is the perfect pump up for Sunday.
For sure, no doubt about it. And he's really hitting his straps with that 500k under his belt. I believe they finished 6th there, so pretty solid effort. And here's Ben Eggleston with a bunch up behind him. Marcus Sakanovic has had to do it hard from the back of the field. Ben's got the headlights on. Marcus in that slipperier VZ, as we said. Now he's blocking as well. So this is a great battle for 9th, 10th and 11th. But Barker's run right off the road.
And that is the young Englishman, just 19 years of age, leads the Formula 3 Championship. First time at Bathurst and driving for Matthew White. Away goes Paul Fiore, who switched into a Falcon for this round. That's the 2007 Bathurst winning car. We just saw a shot before, just behind there. Aaron McGill, who starts his 40th round. That's a new record for the Fujitsu Series. He sits in 16th. But up top of the mountain, David Russell has been so strong, and Steve Owen just hasn't been able to match the Jayco Falcon. Just for a small part of the race he did. But the Queenslander is out in front and driving away.
He is, and the times haven't really dropped off. They're still the last lap around low 2:10. So you know that's a V8 supercar main game sort of race pace. That gives you an idea. The front 3 or 4 are still bashing out very, very impressive sectors. And Russell's the form man of the championship now, really. If you look at Townsville, very consistent there. And he's come to Bathurst and he's on fire.
And probably should have won the round, but had some contact from Steve Owen that ended up spinning off in race 3 and handed the win to Tim Blanchard. So the form's been good. Russell's 4th in the championship coming into this round. Bit of a margin to get to Percat and Blanchard, but he's on his way home to the chase for the final time. 2 races this weekend for the Fujitsu V8 Supercar Series. And Matthew White's team, Matthew White has won here before in this series as a driver, as a team owner now. He's going to get to see the checkered flag with David Russell behind the wheel. What a great way to start the weekend. 150 championship points. The Fujitsu Series is not done with yet. David Russell takes race 1. Steve Owen banks some solid points in 2nd place. That's pretty good, I'd say, too.
A 2:10.7 on the last lap. Steve Owen in 11.2. And James Moffat.
Jeff
Rodney
Emery.
Jane and Emery having a good run to the flag. And so is Ben Eggleston as well. Finishes in 9th.
Marcus Sakanovic just behind in 10th, and the young Kiwi, Daniel Gillison, who's done a very good job on his first time here at Bathurst. But David Russell, that was a really great drive. The ex-FPR Falcon is set up and really moving around Mount Panorama. We get to do it all again tomorrow with the Fujitsu Series. So let's take a look at the way that they finished. Chaz Mostert in 6th. Stunning drive from the Formula Ford racer. Ben Eggleston and Marcus Sakanovic rounded out the top 10 at the end of that 12-lapper. Paul Fiore in 13th. Blanchard did make it to the finish in 14th. Ryan Hansford in 18th after that penalty. But the Fujitsu V8 Supercars might be the stars of tomorrow, but when it comes to Bathurst, the 1960s can't beat it.